Tonight, unity at last. Tory MPs back Rishi Sunak as their leader and the country's next Prime Minister.
I will make it my utmost priority to bring our party and our country together.
Boris Johnson's former Chancellor will move into number 10 tomorrow. After just 7 weeks in the job, Liz Truss's tenure as the shortest-serving PM in history is almost over.
Liz Truss could see the King and step down as early as tomorrow morning. Can Rishi Sunak now steady his party, the country and the economy?
And reaction from Rishi's as the first ever British Asian Prime Minister prepares to take office.
He's better than the alternatives, and I think all we need now is market stability.
The name Rishi means purity, clarity, ray of light. I think at this turbulent time, we need that ray of light.
I'm Vanessa Kennedy in Edinburgh.
And I'm John Mackay in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. Rishi Sunak will become the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, the third Prime Minister this year. He was picked by Conservative MPs after the final contender, Penny Mordaunt, dropped out of the leadership race at the last minute. He has already told them there will be no early general election.
In his first speech as Conservative leader, Mr Sunak warned of the profound economic challenge faced by the nation. He said his priority was to bring the country together. Well, live now to our Westminster editor, Catherine Sanson. And Catherine, quite a comeback for Rishi Sunak after losing out to Liz Truss just 2 months ago.
Yes, it is extraordinary, really, to think, just, 6 weeks ago, Rishi Sunak was rejected by Tory party members in favour of Liz Truss. Now, in the wake of her extremely tumultuous and short-lived stint in office, he has been selected by Tory MPs to be their leader, and I think they hope to try and steady the ship. His task, of course, to try and stabilise the economy as well as his own party, and it has been quite a journey from number 11 to number 10. A warning, my report on today's events contains some flash photography. He got there in the end. Rishi Sunak greeted by the party faithful this afternoon shortly after Tory MPs picked him to be their new leader. At 42, he'll be the youngest in 200 years and the first British Asian to become Prime Minister.
It is the greatest privilege of my life to be able to serve the party I love and give back to the country I owe so much to. The United Kingdom is a great country, but there is no doubt we face a profound economic challenge. We now need stability and unity, and I will make it my utmost priority to bring our party and our country together.
Mr Sunak, are you confident you'll be Prime Minister by this evening?
He left home this morning the clear favourite among his MPs. Tonight he'll return to pack for number 10. Boris Johnson, pulling out of the race last night, helped clear the way for his former Chancellor. Penny Mordaunt dropped out just minutes before this announcement was made.
Rishi Sunak is therefore elected as leader of the Conservative Party.
Scottish Conservative MPs have swung in behind their new leader.
I'm just pleased to be working with Rishi Sunak. I worked closely with him when he was Chancellor of the Exchequer. He's been up to Scotland a number of times. I spoke to him over the weekend and he is absolutely determined to deliver for the whole of the United Kingdom and to work closely with the party and others in Scotland to ensure that we as the Conservative and Unionist Party deliver for Scotland and the whole country.
Well, the mood was euphoric. I mean, in all my time as an MP, I think it's hard to remember a time when there was such enthusiasm and excitement for our Prime Minister. I think there's a real sense that this is make or break time for the Conservative Party. We should rally behind our Prime Minister.
I think he's a calm professional. We've had a period of upheaval, and I think people want to see an end to that, and that's why I'm glad there wasn't a vote today and there isn't going to be a contest elongated into the rest of this week.
But opponents aren't happy with Tory MPs picking what is now the UK's third Prime Minister in just 7 weeks.
What we've seen played out is a coronation here and not an actual election where people have a mandate to serve the British people of this country. You know, Rishi Sunak was rejected by his own party membership only weeks ago. The people of this country now deserve us to go to the electorate to put our policies forward about how we're going to deal with this cost of living crisis.
He should call an early general election. He's the second person in a row to be appointed as Prime Minister by Tories, not elected by the population. The idea that he can go 2 years before seeking or winning a democratic mandate, I think, is just unthinkable.
For now, a warm welcome from the party which ousted his two predecessors. A hard task ahead to restore stability after months of turmoil.
And Catherine, what happens now?
Well, journalists here in Westminster tonight are actually just waiting for more details to drop about exactly what happens next. Some sources think perhaps Liz Truss, as early as tomorrow morning, holds a final cabinet meeting, says goodbye, makes a speech on the steps of Downing Street, and then goes to see the King in London, with, of course, then Rishi Sunak coming into Downing Street, making his speech, going into number 10. And a real, moment of history after an extraordinarily tumultuous few months, which, of course, in many ways kicked off when he made that decision to resign from Boris Johnson's government over Partygate. For the Scottish Conservatives, tonight I really sensed a relief. The weekend spent with talk of perhaps Boris Johnson getting back in. For them, this is a better option. But Rishi Sunak is still going to have to tread very carefully in the days ahead to try and restore the stability and unity in his party.
OK, Catherine, at Westminster, thanks for that. Well, Rishi Sunak has only been in Parliament for 7 years. As Boris Johnson's Chancellor, he was a key figure in the COVID pandemic. But by quitting that job, he triggered a string of resignations ending Johnson's premiership.
Tomorrow, he'll become the youngest Prime Minister in modern political history at the age of 42. Our political editor, Colin Mackay, looks at his rise.
Hi, how are you?
Pretty good.
I'm Rishi.
Rishi Sunak became an MP in 2015 after being a hedge fund manager.
Was that the fudge? No, vanilla fudge.
And was quickly promoted, becoming Chancellor just before the outbreak of COVID in 2020.
I said I would do whatever it takes. I have done, and I will do so.
He initiated furlough during lockdown, saving thousands of jobs, and launched the Eat Out to Help Out scheme to support the hospitality trade.
Will it be a tough budget ahead, Chancellor?
But in his budgets, he acknowledged how tough the economic outlook was.
Our economy has shrunk by 10%, the largest fall in over 300 years. Our borrowing is the highest it has been outside of wartime.
He was fined for breaking lockdown rules alongside Boris Johnson and was credited for helping push Boris Johnson from office when he resigned as Chancellor. He then stood in the summer leadership contest.
Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss will be the candidates going forward.
I'm sounding like someone who wants to be Prime Minister.
At the Perth hustings, he was scathing about the prospect of another independence referendum.
It is quite frankly balmy for politicians to be trying to focus on a divisive and unnecessary constitutional referendum at a time where people are worried about heating their homes. It's completely balmy.
I'll go back to the question then. Would you ever allow another independence referendum?
Of course, the union, I can't imagine the circumstances in which I would.
After raising universal credit by £20 during COVID, he then rejected calls to maintain that, and during the leadership campaign called for cuts to the Scottish Government's welfare budget.
The welfare budget in Scotland is increasing by 50% over the next 5 years, right? That is wrong, right? And we have got to be able to make that argument. We are a party that believes in people working hard, and we want that hard work to be rewarded.
Rishi Sunak will be the wealthiest Prime Minister in recent times. He and his wife are on the Sunday Times rich list with an estimated £730 million. In the summer, he lost out to Liz Truss though. But today he takes over the reins of a government facing even bigger economic problems than when he resigned as Chancellor just a few months ago.
And Colin, we got a sense of it in Catherine's report, but tell us more about what reaction there has been.
Well, as you heard there, the SNP and Labour and also the Greens and the Lib Dems are demanding an urgent general election to move on from this. They say that 3 Prime Ministers in almost as many months is simply untenable for the government to continue, that their mandate's a piece of nonsense now. But that's not the way the political system works. Rishi Sunak has a majority of 71. He's not going to rush into a general election, particularly given how much the Conservatives are trailing in the opinion polls right now. So he's going to wait until things improve. He's got 2 years to do that, and he's going to hope that he can take the credit for that. Now, what he said during the leadership contest over the summer, which he lost, was that he would cut taxes, but in a way that didn't increase inflation. So exactly the opposite of what Liz Truss has actually done in office, even just for 6 weeks. He also said that he would be tough on public sector pay. So his appointment's not been welcomed by the unions today. It has, however, been welcomed by the financial sector, by the markets, because they see him as one of them, and he's promising them stability.
And Colin, what will he be like as a Prime Minister?
Well, do you know, he's not a big man. He's not got a big personality. In interviews, he'll quite often take maybe 2 or 3 questions and then simply about turn and walk away. He's done that to me at least once. And, you know, he doesn't deal well with particularly difficult questions if they're not within a brief. What I'll be fascinated to see is how he performs at Prime Minister's questions on Wednesday. But I fear that Rishi Sunak against Sir Keir Starmer could be a case of dull and duller. Although maybe that's what politics needs just now.
Colin, thank you. Now, the appointment of Rishi Sunak as Prime Minister is also being hailed as a culturally significant moment, not only because he is the first to have Asian heritage, but because he'll become Prime Minister during Diwali.
The 5-day Hindu Festival of Light has been celebrated by millions all over the world and, of course, right here in Scotland. Well, our political reporter Laura Alderman joins us from a Hindu temple in Edinburgh tonight. Laura.
Yes, hundreds of people are expected to gather here tonight to celebrate the first day of Diwali. And of course, that comes on the same day as Rishi Sunak is due to become the new Prime Minister. For many people here, that's very culturally significant because Rishi Sunak is, of course, a practising Hindu. Back in November 2020, when he was Chancellor, he lit candles outside on the doorsteps of Number 11 to mark the start of this religious festival. But this all comes against a growing backdrop, calls for a general election, many saying that although he's been chosen, he has no democratic mandate to govern. Well, we've been speaking to the public to find out what they think on yet another dramatic day at Westminster. When he was Chancellor, Rishi Sunak's Eat Out to Help Out scheme made him a household name. So, as he becomes Prime Minister, where better to gauge public reaction than a restaurant with the same name?
It's better than the alternatives, and I think all we need now is market stability.
The name Rishi means purity, clarity, ray of light. I think at this turbulent time, we need that ray of light, and I'm sure Rishi will bring that.
Meanwhile, the Jilka family are celebrating the first day of Diwali.
It's a fantastic news for us, in a way. I think Rishi is going to do a brilliant job. His policy is top class, solid as rock. And I think we'll dig up and he'll bring the country into, he's going to be a very, very fair Prime Minister.
I think he'll be fair, he's got a good business sense, and he'll bring our country forward.
Would you vote for him if there was a general election?
I would 100% vote for him, yes.
Happy Diwali and all the best to Rishi Sunak and his party. Great.
Mr Sunak will be the first Hindu and person of colour to take up the top job in UK politics. But anti-racism campaigners say despite his background and personal experience, the policies of his party are widening the equality gap.
There is never going to be a man more detached from the challenges that people of colour and working class people face. His colour is going to be used as a weapon by the Tory supporters and Tories MPs, because it's going to silence those dissenting voices when there's criticism about his policies and him as a person.
Rishi Sunak has shown through the pandemic that he is willing to work for ordinary people. But look, it's Diwali and a man of Indian origin has been voted Prime Minister. It's just something that I'm extremely proud of.
In Bankery, a Conservative stronghold, there was more of a mixed reaction to the new Prime Minister.
I'm always very suspicious of people who are smart, smooth and extremely highly educated. They can tell you anything.
They don't have a mandate to do their job. The third Prime Minister in how many months? That's it.
He's brown. Maybe that is a good opportunity for people like me, and others.
Rishi Sunak may have won over his party, but now he's got to do the same with the public.
And I'm joined now by Samir Desai, who is the secretary here. Samir, thank you for joining us. How does it feel to have a person of colour in the top job?
It's a significant moment for all the Hindus in the UK. It's a very significant moment. He's our kind of our role model. And it inspire the next generation to get so they can more believe now in our community.
Do you think his appointment is going to help to tackle some of the issues that are faced by people in your community?
Of course, yes. We Hindus are very peaceful and very tolerant community, so we don't raise many issues, but we have some issues. But now people will get notice it, so hopefully it will help us in a way.
Will he be someone to look up to in your community?
Yeah, so as I told you, he's a role model for all of us, and even next generation are inspired and get into this politics, and they believe that we can all, if you are eligible person and you are capable, then you will get to the top post.
Do you think he's sympathetic to a lot of the issues facing everyday people in the UK, like the cost of living crisis? He is, of course, a very rich man, it's no secret.
Yeah, but he's a down-to-earth person, like we have seen how he performed as a Chancellor. And he get us through the COVID period, through Brexit period. So now we know we have challenges are bigger, but I'm sure he will tackle it.
Samir, thank you so much for joining us on the STV News at 6. I'll let you get back to the celebrations there. This here tonight does feel a million miles away from the drama at Westminster as another day unfolds in Downing Street and a new person takes their place in the top job.
OK, Laura in Edinburgh, thanks for that. Other stories across Scotland, and this year's Poppy Appeal has launched with a ceremony in Edinburgh's Garden of Remembrance. The garden will feature thousands of crosses with personal dedications from across Scotland. It'll be open until Remembrance Sunday for visitors to pay their own tributes to those who gave their lives for the country.
People in Scotland over the age of 50 who have no underlying health conditions are being invited to book their winter vaccine. Those aged between 50 and 64 are being encouraged to get the jab to prevent catching COVID-19 and the flu.
The First Minister is giving care-experienced young people a cast-iron commitment to deliver what's known as the promise. The Scottish Government previously pledged to radically overhaul the care system after an independent review found it wasn't fit for purpose.
The review was conducted following a 2016 STV documentary. The findings described a fractured and unfeeling system. Vanessa Taff reports.
Over the breakfast table, those living in this residential house shared with the First Minister what life is like in care. For Robson, this is a welcoming and supportive home.
The staffs are like family, they are like parents, they help us a lot, they give us love and support, so we can ask everything and they can help us with everything.
Beth Ann grew up in care and is now working to deliver the promise. It's a Scottish Government commitment to a national framework for those growing up in the system.
I had experienced trauma and adversity in my life and kind of looking for connections with people, and basically all I wanted was to be claimed. I wanted somebody to say, you're mine and I love you no matter what. And back then it wasn't the done thing, so love wasn't part of the picture. And I think love now is ingrained in everything that we do.
Despite cross-party commitment, meaningful progress has been slow.
There's a lot of things happening, but they're not happening all across Scotland. So it's not being felt by all children and families who are living in the care system or on the edge of the care system. And some of the changes are slower than I think we would have liked.
Within North Lanarkshire, there is a lot of work being done in the use of language, because I think it starts with how we see young people and how we describe young people. And we now have a kind of set of language that our young people feel that's appropriate. So small bits like that is huge in changing a culture.
The Scottish Government have given a cast iron commitment to the promise, and funding is in place until 2025. Vanessa Taff, STV News, North Lanarkshire.
Let's get to the sport now, and here's Rahman.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Good evening. Ahead of Celtic's Champions League match against Shakhtar Donetsk tomorrow night, Ange Postecoglou has faith that goals will come if his team continues playing as it has been. The Parkhead boss also says Jota's inclusion in Portugal's provisional World Cup squad is proof of his progress since joining the club. Here's Darren McRae.
Celtic know it's win or bust against Shakhtar Donetsk if they want to finish third in their group and drop into the Europa League.
Yeah, look, I think in the context of us sort of continuing Europe, obviously it is. It's a must-win game tomorrow, and our ambition is to try and achieve that, keep us alive.
Celtic go into the game fresh from a thrilling win over Hearts at the weekend. They're now 4 points clear of Rangers at the top of the Premiership. Jota missed out at Tynecastle and won't be fit for tomorrow night's clash. But some good news for the winger. He's been named in Portugal's provisional squad for the World Cup.
Yeah, super pleased. It's a hell of a recognition for him. We know how strong a nation Portugal is, particularly in those attacking positions. So it's great for him, and I'm sure it's a great incentive and motivator for him, and great for our football club.
Shakhtar, who are currently training at Celtic Park, are aiming to secure a place in the last 16 of the tournament.
For us, that will be new experience, and but it will be a pleasure to play here in legendary stadium, Celtic Park. But we believe that we can make another miracle. That we in the last months we grow up as a team. We are not the same team as months ago.
In team news, David Turnbull returns tomorrow night, while the match comes too soon for Jota. Darren McRae, STV News.
VAR's Scottish Premiership debut was everything I expected it to be. Not my words, but those of former referee Stuart Dougal. While the ex-official believes the new technology has helped on-field referees, Hibs defender Ryan Porteous says Scottish football has taken the next step by embracing VAR.
Delays, decisions, discontent. VAR's Scottish Premiership debut caused much debate. The technology was introduced to help on-field referees get more decisions right, but it won't necessarily mean less controversy.
I think it was everything I expected it to be. It's helped the match officials in some situations, and it's caused a bit of controversy in others, and that's the way I think that VAR will continue. Undoubtedly, there will be teething problems and maybe even ongoing problems. But the idea is to make sure that we get more decisions correct.
Ange Postecoglou believes Celtic were denied a penalty at Tynecastle. The incident was reviewed by VAR. While this didn't cause much of a delay, other flashpoints took much longer.
It probably looks like it takes more time and it's gone through people's heads as more than what it is, but you kind of just get on with the game naturally. You kind of get more of a peace of mind that any little offsides, they're going to have a look at. It's obviously different, but as I was saying, the Scottish game now has to adapt to the best leagues in the world, and we've made that next step, and I think everybody's got to try and support it rather than criticise it at the start. So it's getting obviously my full support.
VAR may have encountered teething problems at the weekend, but the new technology is here to stay. The verdict on its benefit for Scottish football is yet to be determined, but its review is underway.
Rugby and the Glasgow Warriors squad have returned from South Africa, with most having recovered fully from illness. Their fixture against Lions, which was due to take place in Johannesburg on Saturday, was called off after 30 players and staff were hit with a viral infection. The match is likely to be rescheduled for next year during the Six Nations window. That, folks, is all your sport tonight. Tomorrow night's desk comes live from Celtic Park.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
You want rain? Sean is going to give you rain.
Well, unfortunately, this week we're right in the firing line of the jet stream. That means more low-pressure systems, more weather fronts and some rather windy conditions at times this week, especially in the northwest, and yet more rain, as if we need more. Especially in the west of the country, some spots heading for the near record levels for October, but a bit of a different story in the east. Let's have a look at the forecast.
A light drizzle is coming in from the west. TUI Blue Hotels sponsor STV Weather.
Well, in some parts of the country, it's felt as if the rain has just never stopped this month. Every time I've taken Harris out, it's been pouring down. He's had to put his jacket on. He absolutely hates it now. Look at what we normally expect in Renfrewshire. 136 millimetres for the whole of October, 185 millimetres so far, so well above average, and getting close to the October record. Change the scale for Tyndrum, of course. Here, on average, we get double the rainfall we get in Renfrewshire, but look at this. We're still above where we should be. Quite a bit off the record, mind you, in Tyndrum, but all in all, it's been a thoroughly wet month for many of us, drier in eastern parts, and it's not going to change this week. We're still going to see further spells of rain, southerly airflow, so it will remain on the mild side. Now tonight we'll still hang on to a lot of cloud. There'll be scattered showers. Temperatures on the mild side about 12, 13 degrees, just a few degrees down on the 14s, 15s we had this afternoon, so very mild for the time of year. Now tomorrow, the good news is it will be dry and bright, so if you have to walk the dog, hopefully you won't get soaked. However, we will yet see more rain coming in from the south a little bit later on in the day. We'll hang on to the brightest weather across northern parts, across the Highlands, Stirlingshire, also Argyll until later on, but clouding over in southern parts ahead of that rain. Expect by the end of the afternoon, Ayrshire, Dumfries and Galway, South Lanarkshire, seeing some of that rain. Rain on the heavy side during tomorrow night, but clearing away to the north, brighter skies coming in, but rather windy around coastal parts. Bye-bye.
TUI Blue Hotels sponsor STV Weather.
Well, let's return to our main story now. Rishi Sunak preparing to take over at number 10.
Our Westminster editor Catherine Sampson is back. And Catherine, we've been through a tumultuous period in British politics. Rishi Sunak's task now is to steady the ship.
Yes, to steady the ship and of course to attempt to tackle the cost of living crisis, to attempt to cope with this extraordinary economic situation. And tumultuous, yes, another extraordinary day here at Westminster. I know I say this all the time, but I was in the corridor, the committee corridor, just after Rishi Sunak was picked by MPs. He came in to address them. They were there, they were banging the tables, they were cheering. Some of them came out saying, we feel euphoric about this change. I think actually what I picked up more was a sense of relief after everything that has happened under Liz Truss. Now, in terms of what we can expect tomorrow, I am hearing from one source we can expect to have the changeover tomorrow morning. I think we're going to see Liz Truss probably chairing Cabinet, and then we're going to have the speeches from Liz Truss on her way out from Rishi Sunak on his way in to number 10. From starting out that time ago in number 11, what an extraordinary moment of history that is going to be.
Catherine at Westminster, thank you. And we'll be hearing more from Catherine in Scotland tonight. I'll be back with that programme at 10:40. We'll be getting more reaction to Rishi Sunak and in particular the reaction here in Scotland. But from the 6 o'clock news, that's all from us tonight.
Okay. From all the rest of us here, enjoy the rest of your evening. Good night.